The Sula River. Meandering, it leisurely flows to the mighty Dnipro River. Being its left bank tributary, the Sula starts in the Sumy Oblast. Its silvery waters were sung about in the poem The Lay of Igor's Host. Sula is translated from the Tatar language as pike perch, which the river was rich in during ancient times. It is translated from Turkic as much water, which meant that it was full-flowing. Since the largest reservoir of the Dnipro cascade was created, the river has significantly changed, especially its lower reach. Moving along this sinuous, sometimes branched channel, the Sula spreads out into a huge bay with an area of 30,000 hectares. Growing thickets of reed mace and reeds surround large and small islands. Plots covered with reed are cut by bays and straits, leading to internal lakes and backwaters. This is exactly where wetlands were formed. The form in which we see the bay today has existed for over 20 years. Its fauna and flora developed. As a result, today the lower reach of the Sula is one of the richest areas in the middle Dnipro.
Нижнее течение Сулы является одним из самых богатых в природном отношении участков Среднего Поднепровья.
Seen as most of its territory is man-made, the wildlife has been preserved only here.
Вся дикая жизнь сохраняется именно здесь.
To preserve this virgin corner, the Lower Sula National Nature Park was established in 2010. The territory is rich in a large variety of plants and animals, with many rare species mentioned in the protection lists. The islands and shores of the Sula Bay are famous for their mushroom and berry fields. Those who like wandering can enjoy the local forests. These places mainly attract fishermen. Nothing beats fishing and enjoying the beauty of nature at early dawn. Even novice can catch a lot of fish here. The Sula Bay is a feeding area for a crucian, a silver carp, a bream, a pike, and a perch. A rare bird will fly by such an abundance of fish. Over 200 species of birds gather in huge flocks on the islands to rest and feed on fish during long flights or to stay in this habitat for a longer time, with the aim of nesting and breeding.
Это система островов, одна из самых живописных на территории нашего парка.
Our park has a very beautiful system of islands. 5 years ago, these places were chosen by large cormorants.
Именно эти места, например, облюбовали 5 лет назад большие бакланы.
That gather in colonies. Their maximum number was in 2015. Over 1,000 pairs of large cormorants nested here. Now their number has decreased, but still they're quite numerous.
Больших бакланов. Сейчас численность немножко снизилась, но тем не менее их здесь достаточно много, и они успешно размножаются.
The rich feeding area allows them to breed. This is also an attractive tourist spot.
Кроме того, это прекрасный объект для демонстрации туристам.
Approaching the island, one immediately notices absolutely bare deadwood, without foliage and bark favored by large black birds. This is the sad result of cormorant activity. Having chosen a healthy tree, they settle in colonies, nest and breed on its branches. The number of birds on a tree increases by many times. For almost a month, the chicks are in nests waiting for their parents and food. During this period, toxic droppings of numerous cormorants destroy the trees, but it is natural for birds to change their homes. Over time, new vegetation will appear here. Cormorants arrive here early enough in the second half of March and appear in the colonies, and they rebuild their nests by the end of April.
Уже позже, в конце апреля, они обновляют свои гнезда, достраивают их.
They make a clutch of 3 to 5 eggs, though only 3 to 4 chicks survive.
В большинстве случаев выживает 3-4 птенца.
From the moment of birth, chicks are in great danger. Not all chicks are able to remain on a small nest. Within a few hours of filming, we noticed that chicks repeatedly fell out of their nests. It is unlikely that their parents will find them and will feed them. Most likely, they will be devoured by predators. The death of nestlings is an ordinary thing. According to our observations, from 20 to 30% of them die. The reasons are different.
От 20 до 30% птенцов. Причины тому разные. Беспокойство хищников.
For example, hunting by white-tailed eagles, goshawks, and hawks. In the colony, there are food for fox and raccoon dogs.
В колонии тут подбирают их.
That is, the colony serves as a source of food for certain local species.
Колония служит источником питания для многих видов, которые здесь обитают.
These are the conditions for survival in the wild, where the strong and more resistant species will survive. Weak birds won't be able to overcome many-hour flights. Nevertheless, cormorants are considered a species that is sufficiently adapted to life.
Относительно недавно была еще одна колония на острове.
Recently, there was another colony that made cone-shaped nests of clay. So these are quite plastic birds and can quite easily adapt to life and nested both in trees and on land.
И жизни в самых разных местах и гнездованию как на деревьях, так и на земле.
In large numbers, cormorants nest in the south of Ukraine. They prefer secluded sea islands where predators cannot physically get to. Creation of the cascade of the Dnipro reservoirs forced birds to nest in the freshwater reed beds. In the 1960s, there were 1,500 cormorants in the Dnipro delta. In recent years, their number has been increasing. Favorable conditions with rich feeding areas attract more and more cormorants. There is a possibility that the next colony will settle in the Chubarova tract.
Население, которое занимается здесь активно.
Local fishermen actively involved in fishing consider cormorants their rivals, as they eat too much fish. We ecologists believe that cormorants have equal rights with fishermen to catch fish.
Поймать рыбу, чем те же рыбаки из соседних сел.
The national park lands stretch along the border of the Cherkasy and Poltava oblasts in the lower part of the Sula River Valley. This area was a border during Kievan Rus times. High banks of the river reliably protected the defense line. Valorous warriors restrained the siege of Mongol Tatars, Poles, and Turks. After the Russian Empire came here, Ukrainians from central regions and Cossacks could settle here.
Со времен Киевской Руси тут располагались по Суле.
Fortifications on the Sula River served as a state border. At its mouth, there was a port city that supplied the local population and military units with food.
Туда прибывали корабли, которые снабжали продовольствием местное население и воинские части. Ну, то есть это очень серьезная такое была оборонная линия.
It was a serious fortification along the Sula that protected it from nomads. They often raided our territories, took people into slavery and enriched themselves. This was a kind of business which our ancestors tried to combat.
Обогащались таким вот своеобразный на то время был бизнес, с которым наши предки постоянно боролись.
A Cossack-style church in the Hudolivka suburbs is a reminder of the local indigenous population. There is a version that the rebel and captain of the Zaporizhian siege Hudoli, who was proclaimed hetman in 1650, hid here. The church was built later in the late 19th century. The cross-shaped temple was designed by renowned architect Vladislav Horodetsky. The site was defined by proven methods. The construction site was first designed as an enclosure for sheep. Observing the behavior of animals that safely grazed and laid down for the night, they concluded that there was a positive aura here. And they were not mistaken. Over 2 centuries, St. Michael's Church has served parishioners around the district. On holidays and weekdays, people seek support and blessing in holy places where they pray. As before, the local rivers are full of fish, steppe slopes and meadows are in blossom, and birds gather in flocks on the islands and floodplains of the rivers. People using these untold treasures of nature try to protect and renew them, so the centuries-old oak forests behind the village were replaced by pine forests in the early 20th century. Hudolivka villagers planted new trees here.
Приходилось садити вручну.
They had to plant by hand. Now mechanized planting is used. In old times, planting was done with the help of a horse, an ox, or a cow. Half of the family was involved in planting using a shovel or a plow. Now it's a great century-old forest.
А п'ятеро садять ліс. Садили під лопату, під сапу. Але ліс відновили, і зараз на даний момент ви бачите прекрасний, уже доходячи до столітнього віку ліс.
Now volunteers help to replant forests. Local school children have planted about 100 hectares of young forest in recent decades. Young naturalists and NNRP staff set up an arboretum. This small experimental plot of land is home to a diversity of rare, relic, and hybrid species. There are such kinds of ash as mountain and oak-leaved with leaves reminding of those of oak trees. So, by experience, young botanists learn how fauna can be diverse, how it is modified, and exactly what conditions are needed for different tree species to comfortably coexist. In future, we plan to build a rock garden here and a fountain there. For this purpose, a well was drilled, and we planted materials for school alleys and squares. They took roots. It's impossible to visit all the corners of the NNP with an area of 18.5 thousand hectares even in a month. But there are special routes that fully reflect the fauna and flora diversity on this wild land. For example, a trip to Lake Sudebske. Employees of the park developed this 3-kilometer route in a way that allows one to inhale the aroma of mixed herbs of the real swampy floodplain meadows, to wander in a pine and alder forest, to enjoy rare species and the indigenous plants of floodplain forests, a century-old willow in 3 girths. The echo path leads to mushroom and berry fields. There is a chance to see the largest carnivorous bird, although a white-tailed eagle is rather secretive and fearful. White-tailed eagle constantly hovers over this lake monitoring water. Its main food is fish. An eagle is able to hunt at a depth of up to ½ meter from the water surface. It can hunt even deeper. Then, with the help of its wings, it gets out of the water. And the final stage of the trip is Lake Sudebske with an unusual history. In Tsarist times, its lands were owned by Countess Varvara Ladinina. She did not allow local Cossacks to use her lands. Facing such injustice, locals appealed to the court. History holds back whether they achieved their goal, but since that time, the lake has been called Sudebske. Now it is available to tourists, fishermen and explorers of its depths. It has a diverse species composition of aquatic mollusks. We saw a pond snail. It mostly moves through aquatic plants and collects epibiosis on the water surface. If a water strider is from above, then it is from below. It collects everything on the water surface. Its useful function is filtering water.
По поверхностной пленке воды. Но если водомерка сверху, то он снизу. И он, естественно, собирает все то, что плавает на поверхности воды. Ну, и фильтруя воду, в общем-то, довольно такое полезное существо.
Dragonflies play over the water and banks not in vain. Destroying the larvae of mosquitoes, they save us from pesky insects. As is known, there are many mosquitoes from summer till the autumn cold. Dragonflies are interesting because they change the habitat during their life cycle. Larvae live in water and developing their wings, they enjoy flying.
Работаю я тут всего лишь где-то
For a
полтора
month and a half,
месяца.
I discovered 9 rare species of insects listed in the Red Book of Ukraine, the find of the century. Here is such a unique territory. Today I recorded rare species of the dragonfly. It is also included in the protected list.
Стрекозу белолобую, которая тоже внесена в охранные списки.
Insects also adapt to the habitat. Water strides, for example, can slide on the water surface as if it is a stretched-out film. Quickly, without falling into the depths, the water bug hunts, grabs the victim with its proboscis and continues hunting. Observing the local inhabitants, you admire how the natural world is perfect and how little we know about it. Travel and discover unexplored Ukraine with us.